Hello everyone, my name is Francesco Giuliari and I will present the work POMP++, POMCP-based active visual search in a non-indoor environment. This work was a collaboration between the Italian Institute of Technology, the University of Verona, the University of Genoa, and the Bruno Kessler Foundation. In this work, we focus on a task for embodied AI that is called active visual search. In this task, we have an autonomous agent equipped with an RGBD camera that is tasked to explore an unknown environment, searching for a target object. For example, a sofa in an unknown room. The agent takes as input the RGBD stream and then at each time step has to predict a movement action to explore the environment efficiently in order to successfully reach the target object in as few moves as possible. In the image, we can see three possible paths that the agent can take. The black one will lead to a failure to solve the task. The red path and the yellow path will result in a successful exploration, with the red path is more efficient than the yellow path, since it can reach the target object in fewer steps. Some of the most prominent works for this task are from the deep reinforcement learning field. These methods typically train neural network to learn a policy to explore the environment and search for the target object. These methods have been shown to be able to obtain the state-of-the-art performances in terms of success rate and path efficiency, but they also have some limitations. The first limitation is that due to the use of neural network, these methods are not completely interpretable and some parts have to be treated as black boxes. The second limitation is that to train these models, they need a large amount of training data and the model is challenging to generalize, meaning that to deploy these models in new scenario, one first has to gather and annotate new training data. The second class of methods is POMDP based planner. These methods use POMDP to solve the exploration problem in an online manner. They are interpretable and they require no training data. The performances and limitations of these methods are dependent on their problem formulation. For example, POMP shows a comparable success rate and path efficiency but needs prior information about the layout of the environment. In our approach, we treat the active visual search task as a partially observable mark-on decision process. We configure the active visual search task as a system where the environment has a hidden state that describes the location of the searched object. The agent acts on the environment via movement actions and then receives an observation with partial information about the state of the environment. We can use the POMDP framework to mathematically describe the system and use a POMDP solver like POMCP to find the best possible action that the agent can take. The agent then takes this action in the real environment, observes the changes using the camera information, and this information is used to update the states in the POMDP. Using this approach, our method is fully interpretable, does not need any training data, has a very high success rate, and very high path efficiency. Our main contributions are a new POMDP formulation to work in unknown environments, a new belief reinvigoration strategy for POMCP to work in growing environment. This is our overall architecture of POMP++. We begin by using the RGBD images from the sensor to initialize an environment map. This map is a top-down view grid that records what the agent has observed of the environment. It contains information about the location where the agent can move, the location of the obstacle, and the possible location where the object could be placed. Using the map information, we define our POMDP and then use an online solver called POMCP to find the best action that it can take. The agent takes this action in the real-world environment and obtains a new set of RGBD images from a new location. If the agent can see the searched object, then it approaches it using a shortest path algorithm called robust visual docking proposed in the original POMP work. If the agent cannot see the object, then we update the environment map with new observation and repeat this process. Because we are working in an unknown environment, first we need a way to store topological information that the agent gathered during the search. We define a 2D environment map, which is a top-down view of the environment subdivided in cells, where each cell represents what the agent knows about that part of the environment. Each cell can be of four types. The first type is the unknown cell. This means that this agent does not have any information about that part of the environment. The second type is the seen cell. The agent has observed that location and the cell is accessible. The third type is the occluded cell. The agent has observed that location and there is an obstacle in it. The agent cannot move to that cell and cannot observe cells behind it. The last type of cell is the candidate cell, the unknown cell that is adjacent to a seen cell. This cell represents a plausible location where the object could be found. In our POMDP formulation, we assume that the object lies in the candidate cells. Every time the agent moves to a new location, it observes the scene and updates the map with new information. Our POMDP formulation is dynamic and updates every time the agents make a new observation. From the environment map, we extract the post graph GT and the candidate CT. The post graph indicates all the possible locations where the robot can move and the action needed to go from one to another. The candidate CT are the possible location where the target object could be placed. The POMDP at time t is defined as follows. The set of state of the system is all the possible combination between the position where the robot can be and all the possible candidate locations. The actions are the movement that the robot can take, where we consider 4 actions in our current study. The transition model defines how the system goes from one state to another, and is defined by the post graph, since that when the agent takes an action, only the robot will move, while the target object remains at the same location. We only have 2 possible observations, 1 if the agent sees the object, and 0 otherwise. The observability model defines the observation from the current state, and is defined by a visibility function that checks whether the candidate location defined by the state is inside the field of view of the robot. The reward function is high if an action leads to a state where the robot sees the object. Otherwise, the reward is set to -1 to penalize longer path. Finding the optimal solution for a POMDP can become critical when the search space is large. To overcome this issue, we use an online planner called POMCP to solve the POMDP in real time. POMCP makes use of Monte Carlo simulation to find an approximation of the best solution for the next action. Each simulation assumes that the system is in one of the possible starting states, so one of the states where the agent is in its current location and the object is in one of the possible candidate locations. Each simulation makes a series of random movements until either it sees the simulated object or is run out or allowed moves. Each path is given a reward based on whether it sees the object or not, and the reward is then assigned to the first action in the path. The value is then averaged on all simulations, and the one with the highest value is returned as the optimal action. In order for our dynamic POMDP formulation to work, we also had to change how the belief is updated after every action. The belief is a probability over the system states and reflects the agent's current guess about the real state of the system, and is updated as the agent explores the environment and makes new observations. Let's see first how the original POMCP updates its belief. Initially, the agent has not observed the system, so it's assumed that it can be in any state, so the initial distribution is uniform on all the system states. Then, POMCP runs Monte Carlo simulation, where each simulation samples a starting state from the belief. Each simulation moves randomly, and after every move gets back an observation according to the sample state. In this image here, we have 2 groups of states. The first group is the state where the simulation took A as the first action and got an observation O. The second group, the action was also A, but the observation was not A. Let's assume that in the real system, the agent took the action A and got back O as the observation. After the original belief update, only the states sampled by simulation that took the action A and got back an observation O are propagated to the next belief. Then, in order to not completely remove the other states, POMCP randomly samples some new states from the previous belief. This approach has 2 main limitations. The first one is it doesn't work with our POMDP formulation because it doesn't account for a growing set of states. The second problem is that it penalizes states that were not considered by simulation that took A as its first action. To solve both of these issues, we propose a new update and reinvigoration strategy. First, during the belief update, we propagate to the next belief all the states apart from those sampled by simulation that took the action A and got back an observation, not O. During the reinvigoration, we then introduce the newly discovered states in the belief and give them the same probability as the other one. With our proposed changes, we were able to use a POMDP formulation with a dynamic search space. Every time the agent moves and makes a new observation, we need to check whether the object is visible from its current location. After every move, we collect the RGBD image from the camera and use an object detector to check for the object. If the object is detected, we use the depth information to estimate its position in the 3D environment and find the closest location that the agent can reach. Then we calculate the shortest path using a shortest path algorithm on the post graph and use it to approach the object. To be more accurate, every time we move, we re-estimate the location of the object. For our evaluation, we use the testing scenes of multiple 3D dataset and the object navigation data from Habitat Lab. In this task, the agent has to explore 11 scenes from the multiple 3D, searching for a set of 5 different objects. The episode is considered a success if the agent stops within 1 meter from the target object. We use 3 performance metrics for the evaluation, which are proposed in the Habitat Object Goal benchmark. The success rate describes the percentage of searched episodes where the robot was able to stop near to the target object. The success weighted path length describes how efficient is the path taken by the robot. And finally, the distance to success indicates how far the robot was from the success threshold in episode that had enough failure. We compare our approach against some state-of-the-art methods for active visual search, like semantic exploration, active narrow SLAM, classical mapping, cross-frontier-based exploration, as well as some more simple deep reinforcement learning approaches that output the policy directly from the camera stream. We can observe that methods that explicitly use the mapping on the environment, like classical mapping, active narrow SLAM, semantic exploration, and POMP++, perform much better than methods that try to work on implicit scene representation extracted from the visual feature from the sequence of observation. Amongst these approaches, our POMP++ outperform all the other methods in all 3 measures, with a significant increase in success rate and a much lower distance to success. This means that with our approach, the robot has a much higher chance of reaching the searched object, and even when it fails, it is typically closer to the destination. Here we have a demo of the exploration with our method where the robot is searching for the sofa. On the right, we have the RGBD stream coming from the camera, and on the bottom we can see how the map is updated during the exploration. We can see that the robot explores the environment looking for the sofa efficiently. Here we can see that the sofa has been correctly detected and the agent managed to reach it. To conclude, in this work we present POMP++, a POMDP-based approach for active visual search. Our approach makes explicit use of the information about the environment via a map that is updated as the agent explores. To account for this increase in knowledge, we propose a dynamic POMDP formulation that is updated with every new observation, and a new belief reinvigoration strategy that can work in this new setting. Due to these characteristics, our proposed approach is fully interpretable and does not require any training data. In future works, we will explore the possibility of including object-related semantics in the environment map in order to make use of object-to-object spatial relationship. Thank you for watching.